You know the image. The ramp drops, the water, the beach. What you probably don't know is that the landing was the part they were most confident about. The hard part was everything that had to be true before the ramp ever dropped. Because to put an army onto that beach, the Allies had to solve a problem that had no obvious solution, and then convince the Germans they were solving a different one entirely. 4 years earlier, the Allies had been thrown off this coast. In 1940, Germany took France in 6 weeks. The British army escaped from Dunkirk and left almost everything behind. From that moment, Western Europe was German. And to get back in, the Allies would have to land an army across open water against a coast the Germans had 4 years to prepare. Nobody had done that successfully at this scale, ever. Germany's answer was concrete. Thousands of strong points, gun batteries, anti-tank obstacles and mines, from Norway to the Spanish border. They could not make all of it strong. The coastline was too long, so the question for both sides became the same question. Where? The Germans expected the Pas de Calais. It was the obvious answer. The channel is narrowest there, about 20 miles. Shorter crossing, shorter air cover, the most direct route into Germany. The Allies knew the Germans expected it, so they built an army that did not exist. Operation Fortitude created a phantom force in southeast England, pointed directly at Calais, inflatable tanks, fake landing craft, radio traffic from units with no soldiers. They put one of the most recognisable generals of the war in nominal command of it, on the assumption the Germans would follow him. They did. German divisions stayed near Calais, including after the real landings had begun. That is the part that mattered most. Not that the deception worked on the day, but that it kept working for weeks afterwards. The real target was Normandy, further from Germany, longer crossing, worse beaches, and no major port. That last problem was the one that had defeated every previous plan, because an army needs a harbour to be supplied through, and every harbour on the coast was heavily fortified. So the Allies decided to bring a harbour with them. 2 artificial ports built in sections in Britain, towed across the channel and sunk into place off the Normandy coast. The invasion frontage was divided into 5 sectors: Utah and Omaha, American; Gold, British; Juno, Canadian; Sword, British. With airborne divisions dropped inland at each end of the line to hold the flanks before the sea landings arrived. It was set for the 5th of June. The weather broke. The forecast gave a narrow window on the 6th. Not good weather, just possible weather. Wait. And the tides and the moon would not line up again for weeks. Long enough for the secret to leak. The decision was one man's to make. He made it. It began in darkness. Gliders came down beside 2 bridges east of the landings and took them within minutes. Then the parachute drops. They did not go to plan. Cloud, flak and navigation errors scattered troops across the Cotentin Peninsula, far from their drop zones. Small groups formed out of whoever they found and attacked whatever was nearest. Ironically, the chaos helped. German commanders receiving reports of paratroopers everywhere could not work out where the real attack was. At dawn, the fleet appeared. Nearly 7,000 vessels. 4 of the 5 beaches went broadly as planned. Omaha did not. The bombardment missed. The current pushed landing craft off course. The defenders were in good positions on high ground, and they were not the weak unit the Allies had expected. For several hours, the American landing at Omaha hung on the edge of failure. It held. Not because the plan worked, but because small groups climbed the bluffs anyway, in places nobody had planned to climb. By nightfall, around 156,000 Allied troops were ashore. The beaches were linked within days. Calm was supposed to fall on the first day. It took until mid-July. Normandy's hedgerows, small fields divided by ancient earthbanks, turned into ideal defensive ground. Every field was a new position to take. For 6 weeks, the front barely moved. The Germans could not push the Allies back into the sea. The Allies could not break out. Then, at the end of July, the Americans punched through in the west. The line collapsed. Within 2 months, Paris was free. Within a year, the war in Europe was over. D-Day did not win the war on its own. The largest German losses were in the east, and had been for years. What it did was open a second front that Germany could not afford, on ground it could not give up. And it worked because of the things that happened before the ramps dropped. A harbour that was carried across an ocean, an army that did not exist, and a weather forecast that gave one man a single day to decide.